okuba atenga atuuka enteekateekadde edda okubanga alambula Kyabazinga emikuzi mingi ino aidenganga ayogera ku nsonga ey'okuuma obuwangwa okuuma obutonde era nga n'ensonga emuleese wano ayanirizibwa n'abakungu ab'endawulo okuli baminisita okwoteire n'abasoga okuva mitundu eby'endawulo era wanga wano woli kubona atandise okuba atenga alijja afuluma Kyabazinga wanaaba atenga afuluma emmotoka eyo alijja kubanga ayanirizibwa n'atwala protocol mu yafesi ya isaba minisita owekitiibwa Andrew Ntange n'ali kumwaniriza wano ndi kubonawo Executive Director ow'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority Minister ow'ensonga edenda wa Uganda ensonga edenda wa Busoga era nga ni Minisita Mbwa Kyabazinga Kyabazinga wa Busoga awerekeirwaku Katukiro namba 2 owekitiibwa Osman ate nga n'atwala ensonga eda Kyabazinga Affairs owekitiibwa Babirye Yudaya yena aliwo Minisita w'ensonga ed'ebyobulambuzi Mbwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga yena aliwo era nga Kyabazinga amaze okuba atenga afulumamu okufulumamu alijja okunaaba mu ngalo okukuuma SOPs akageriwe kiri nti Isaiba omukambwe mu iwanga lino erya Uganda alimu naawo woli kumubona awo wali kuniina ekifo kino akageriwe kiri nti kirimu ebisolo awosooka buli muntu ayingira muno alina okuba atenga aniina muno era nga Kyabazinga wa Busoga ali kunaaba mu ngalo nga eyindi ku ngeri ey'okuyamba ku okutangira ekimbe ky'Isaiba omukambwe n'ensonga n'edo iwalibona ku Baba TV nga wakatwegaita ku Kyabazinga wa Busoga His Royal Highness William Wilberforce Kadumula Nadiope owokuna amaze okuba atenga atuuka ku kifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi asoboire okuba atenga aida okulambula enteekateeka nga bwe diri egy'okuba atenga ditambula tudakusobola okuba atenga tuli kutuusaaku aye nga abamuwerekeireku n'okuli ku minisita akola ku nsonga eda Kyabazinga Affairs Kyabazinga aweereibwa ekimuli nga akandi ku kabonero akamwaniriza mu kifo baminisita oba oli kubona n'okuli minisita w'ensonga edenda wa Busoga eyali ku ssentebe wa district y'Idinda Executive Director ow'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority era nga tusaayo no Kyabazinga alijja okuba atenga alamusaaku abandi ku bantu omuli bamistourism okwoteire n'abasoga abawangaalira mu kyalo kino abo boli kubona n'abandi ku bakungu mu bwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga baminisita era ng'enteekateeka diri nti wanaabanga aviire wano alijja okuba atenga yeetaba mu lukiiko olw'endawulo n'abakungu abatwala ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority n'ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center nedo enteekateeka doli kubona mu kifo kino era nga awerekeibwaku ne baminisita ab'endawulo mu bwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga wano waali kuyingira neisangaziro we basangaliza abagenyi mu kifo kino awerekeirwaku Executive Director w'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority isaba minisita namba 2 minisita w'ensonga edenda wa Busoga era nga omulimu ogw'okulambula atandise ensonga edirese wano Kyabazinga wa Busoga n'okulambula ekifo kino kirimu ebisolo ebinoni n'ebintu eby'obuwangwa kyaidde okusobola okuba atenga atandika okuba nga alambula era nga kifo kyakusomekeza mu bantu ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center basomekezaawo baana era nga asiimye asobola okwidda okusobola okuba atenga alambula nedo enteekateeka ewali Baba TV live oli kutubona mu kibuga kino eky'Entebbe osobola okuba atenga weetegereza nga ebiri kufaanana bangi ino baidyenga nga baidda mu kifo kino era nga ebindi ku bisolo eby'omu nsiko ebyo bye wabonaku eira n'ebyo byotabonangaku n'ebyo ebiri mu kifo kino era nga edindi ku nteekateeka tutegeireku Kyabazinga okutambula kuno alijja kubanga abaaku mu kafubo n'abakungu ab'endawulo kwoyo akulira ekitongole ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority n'atwala ekitongole kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center kyalidde okusobola okuba ate nga abaaku n'enteekateeka d'okulambula ekifo kino. So tukwetaaga osobola okuba ate nga otugoberera live ku Baba TV, tuli streaminga live ku mikutu gyaffe egy'enjawulo, oidde asobola okuba ate nga obitegeera niwe ali kwenda okuba ate nga atugoberera, ali ku YouTube, ali ku Twitter, osobola okuba ate nga otugoberera. Tuli mu kibuga kya Ntebe. Enteekateeka zino tino omukuzi ogusooka okuba nga abakungu ab'enjawulo baidde okulambula ekifo kino, so tusaba osobola okuba ate nga weenaawo twegaitaku otegeere enteekateeka yedinaaweera ekitundutundu ekya Busoga region okwidde okufuna ekibuga nga ibinda okufuulibwa site. Ekibuga kyalingibwako nga kibuga kya byabulambuzi era nga bino ebitundu ebyobulambuzi ne bitandise okusala omukago n'obwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga busobola okuba ate nga oba oliawo bataawe ekifo ekifaana kiti mu kitundutundu ekya Busoga. Wobanga wetegereza iwanga lino erya Uganda, ebifo ebifaana oti ni bino bifo bitono ino nti abantu batambula okuva e Kapcholo, abatambula okuva eggulu ne district ediriraine waawo nga Busoga bagibita mu bubite okwidda mu kibuga eky'e Kampala okulambula. Ekitegeeza nti singa ogutundutundu ogwa Busoga obuli ekibuga eky'eddinda yoona ebeeteereibwayo ekifo ekifaana oti ne kino kibanga kyongera ku mpiiya eddiida mu byenfuna ebya Busoga okwoteere n'ekibuga eky'eddinda ate nga n'abantu abenda okulambula boona basobola okolesa akaagaanya kano. Ekifo kino eky'ebyafaayo kirimu ebisolo nkutegeezeza ebinoni n'emiti byosobola okuba ate nga weena weetaaga okuba nga obonaku. So nkukubiriza nti iwe ali tubona ku Baba TV mu maiso eyo tudda kusobola okuba ate nga tukulaga ebindi ku bintu ebiri wano. Osobola okuyidda weena wasobola okulambula ebifo tini bino kubanga nteekateeka ddakuwagira ebyobulambuzi ebyaife ife nga aba wano mu iwanga lino erya Uganda. So enteekateeka neddo wano woli kubona okutegeezeza nti Kyabazinga wa Busoga okutuuka enteekateeka dde omukolo omukulu gwakwidda kulambula asiimye yeena aidde alambuleku era nga tudde abona mu maiso eyo n'ebindi kubirawo bye banaamugemya singa anaabanga amaze okulambula. Waidda kubaawo ku olukiiko olw'ekyama oba akafubo ke banaabaamu n'abakungu abatwala ebifo bino ebyobulambuzi era ng'okuva mu maiso awo wanaaba nga asiimye aidda kwogera ku eri eggwanga Uganda n'eri Obusoga sobola okuba ate nga tutegeera enteekateeka dde bamaliriza ku nadu owakatwegeeta ku Baba TV tukutegeeza nti tuli live okuva mu kifo ky'ebyobulambuzi ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center wano mu kitundu eky'Entebe era nga ebifo ebifaanana oti bino obanga olingirire ku bibuga regions edaida akafuna ebibuga gutundutundu ogw'omu Mambuka yo eriyo ekifo ekifaanana oti ni kino ni parks ed'enjawulo. So kitegeeza nti ebitundu ebyabeere byakafuna city obuli ebikulinga eno ku bulambuzi denene dandibaire enteekateeka ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority ne Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center okusobola okuba ate nga bataaku eisira okusobola okuba nga bayambaku abantu. Kyabazinga wa Busoga guno tino omukuzi ogusooka abakungu aba Uganda Wildlife Authority abaali bakagenewala kuuku ewala taisaife Kyabazinga era nga nteekateeka dda kutumula bya bulambuzi waire nga byali bikoseebwa eno n'ekimbe ekyeseeseebwa omukambwe nti okuva ekimbe ekyeseeseebwa omukambwe bwekyaidda nga abantu bakasobola kungaana ne President Enuma yali yakavaayo okuba ate nga aigalawo abantu okutambula at ease. Enteekateeka edifaano nti dino daatuuka akaseera daaba ate nga dizingo imwemuuku ekitegeza nti bwe tuba tutandiise okuba ate nga tusobola okwiramu okutambula libaisuubi ly'amaanyi ino eri Uganda ne Busoga okutwaliza awalala. Eno na administration block iwali kutubona Kyabazinga wa Busoga aidda kuba ate nga abaaku n'olukiiko n'abakungu ababiri abatwala ebifo bino ebyobulambuzi era nga oli kubona obundi n'atwala ekitongole ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority ate ng'obundi n'atwala ekifo kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Center bamaze okuba ate nga batuuka ng'era Kyabazinga aidda kubaako n'akafubo mu nteesaganya ed'endawulo nga bw'oli kubona. Kyabazinga balekererwa ku baminisita oba abakungu okuva mu Kyabazinga bwa Busoga n'abandi ku bakungu okuva minisitule ey'ebyobulambuzi nga bw'oli kubona. So twenda okuba ate nga tukusaba nti tugoberere live ku Baba TV osobola okuba ate nga otegeera emikolo nga eginaatambula ebindi ku ebyo. Osobola okuba ate nga otugoberera ne ku mikutu gyaffe emiyunga abantu okuli Twitter www.babatv.co.ug abali streaminga live musobola okuba ate nga mutugoberera mutegeere enteekateeka nga bwe diri. Lino n'erindi ku DFS ed'ekitundu ed'ekitongole kino iwe owakatwegaitaku twenda okuba ate nga tukutegeeza nti Kyabazinga wa Busoga asiimye asobola okuba ate nga alambuula ekifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi. So twenda kusobola okuba ate nga tukulaga enteekateeka nga bwe dinaaba.
Dana.
Number is enough, please.
As His Royal Highness signs our visitor's book, I want to take this opportunity to greatly welcome His Highness Governor the Fourth and the entire entourage. I want to welcome you to the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. I want to welcome the various ministers from the Kingdom. I want to welcome the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. I want to welcome our town clerk in Tebe Municipality. We are glad to host His Royal Highness this morning. My name is Dr. James Msinguzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. We are going to have a brief meeting where we are going to interact with His Royal Highness. We've developed a brief agenda, opening prayer, welcome remarks from myself. We shall have welcome remarks from the UA ED. We shall have a word from His Royal Highness William Wilberforce Kadumbula Gavula Nadiepe the Fourth. We shall have reactions and then we shall proceed to begin our tour. I would like to ask Madame Helena, the Minister of Tourism, to give us a brief prayer to guide this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for this day. Thank you for our king, our leaders. We thank you for everyone who is here. We pray that the King's tour becomes the most mileage and the most powerful tourism promotion for this site for OWEC. We thank you for everyone's effort who has been part of this organizing team. Thank you, Lord. I see our King going back safely and everyone who is among the stars in Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you very much, Honorable Helena. Your Royal Highness, William Wilberforce Kadumbula Nadiepe the Fourth, your entourage, the various signatories, the EDUA, the various ministers from the Kingdom, our town clerk in Tebe, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. Like I have said, my name is Dr. James Msinguzi, the Executive Director here. We are glad to receive you at UWEC. Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center basically exists to carry out conservation education in Uganda, where we emphasize environmental education as well as education for sustainable development. We basically receive Ugandans and non-Ugandans and take them through that education with the purpose of emphasizing protection and conservation of our environment, especially wildlife resources, because they form the basis of the tourism sector in Uganda. Majority of our tourism sector is wildlife based, and therefore there is a need to preach the gospel of wildlife conservation in the country, and this country does that. We do it here in Entebbe at the zoo, but also during our outreach in schools and communities. We also do captive wildlife breeding. We also rescue and rehabilitate wildlife. And once they are ready, we take them back into the wild, working with the ED UA, Mr. Sam Mwanda, and we make sure they are reintroduced back into the wild to promote wildlife resources in the wild and tourism in the country. In doing our work, it is very important that we work with cultural institutions in order to use the great element of culture, because like you'll see, Your Highness, as we go on a tour, most of the animals here which are indigenous, they are Ugandan animals, and these are working as totems for our people that you lead. And so we feel that if we use your message, if we get a message from you to the subjects to conserve wildlife, to conserve their totems, and to create a connection between the communities and these totems, is a great tool towards wildlife conservation. And we think that we can actually start a partnership that can support us in this regard. The Uganda Wildlife Education Center, working with Uganda Wildlife Authority, is also trying to establish wildlife conservation education centers across the country. We want to set up a zoo like this in all the regions of Uganda. And this morning we had a very good discussion with Honorable Helena, the Minister of Tourism, to see how we can also set up a zoo in Jinja. On the eastern route, for example, first of all, for now, we have earmarked Mbale for a zoo, and we feel that it is something that we can also do in Jinja, as long as we can get land that measures between 50 to 100 acres around the municipality, so that the center is set up and is self-sustaining. That is critical. Self-sustaining, so that it can contribute to the tourism potential of Jinja and the eastern route, because we want to boost the tourism along the eastern route by introducing wildlife resources there, to be able to create jobs for our Ugandans there, to be able to create a multiplier effect in terms of economic growth and development for our people. So I don't want to say much. I want to welcome you again and to say thank you very much for sparing your time during this difficult time of COVID to come and visit us. Your visit is majorly aimed at how we can consolidate the partnership, how we can form a partnership to promote wildlife conservation in our country through the gate of cultural institutions, because they are very powerful. Culture is very powerful. It can influence our people. People can listen, and we are sure once you talk to the subjects, then we can achieve a lot in terms of wildlife conservation. Once again, you are welcome. From here, we shall take you around for you to appreciate what we have and perhaps point out some other areas where we can work together. I want to thank you and welcome you again. I want to invite the EDUA to say something. He's in charge of all the wildlife in the country, including that inside and outside protected areas. For us, we only deal with captive wildlife management. And so he's here to speak to us. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Musinguzi, Your Royal Highness, Kyabazinga Osogasanga Yokubona, Mutabane wa Sam Mwanda, I just want to first thank James Musinguzi for receiving you and your team, because we work with Dr. Musinguzi very closely when wildlife comes out of a park and probably somebody wants to traffic it to another country and we capture, then we bring to him and he rehabilitates, and sometimes we send it back to the wild, or we can give it to people to manage as pets. Your Royal Highness and the Honorable Ministers who have accompanied you and other people, we also would like to inform you that Uganda Wildlife Education Center is actually a small representation of the wildlife we have in Uganda. And when you are moving around, they will show you places they will call Omburo, there will be others they will call Karamoja, and so on. And so what we have here is something that educates Ugandans to know that there is wildlife that they can go and visit in its natural environment. And we at Uganda Wildlife Authority then manage that wildlife in the natural environment. And we have 10 national parks. We have 12 wildlife reserves scattered all over the country. Unfortunately, Busoga doesn't have any, but we know that there are several forests there that can still do keep wildlife. We also have the lakes, Victoria and Choga and the River Nile, with crocodiles and hippos that have been a problem to the people of Busoga, but especially Namayingo, Ujiri, Mayuge districts. Those have really suffered with crocodiles, but we are working to engage the communities to see how best they can live with the wildlife and avoid the conflicts that arise. We are looking forward, Your Royal Highness, for you to visit any of our parks at a time of your convenience, so that you see the wildlife in its natural environment. So when you're ready, Honorable Helen here will organize with us, and we can arrange a visit to any of our parks. Your visit here to us is extremely important because it shows your desire to conserve. And incidentally, for me, I am a Mwise Msubo. There is a small bird called Kana Msubo. Probably the most beautiful bird in Uganda. That is my clan. But wildlife is linked to our very existence, because if I am a Mwise Msubo with the Namsubo as my totem, and let me not look this way, look at Mr. Magumba here and say he's also another clan, which is another animal. And I protect the Namsubo and he protects his and she protects hers. Then we'll have the wildlife protected. And for us, that...
This specifically protects the Ndaza.
The Ndaza. So we are able to protect these animals, and we will have them to be seen, to be loved, and to bring in money, because it brings in a lot of visitors, and the visitors give us foreign exchange, and that foreign exchange brings jobs, and we sell our products, and it's a very big chain that is important to the economy. So we want to thank you, Your Royal Highness, that you have come, and we want to believe that we will be seeing more of you here, but also that you will also be part and parcel of the people who stand and convince Ugandans that conservation of wildlife is important. Incidentally, as I close, our two institutions are going to merge to become one. And so probably in 1 year's time, this will be one institution, and it will even make the administration and work much easier for the conservation of wildlife. So we want to thank you. We want to thank the honorable ministers that have come with you, and we look forward to a long-term relationship with the Kingdom of Soga. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sam Wanda, the Executive Director of the Uganda Wildlife Authority. I would like now to invite Owetitibwa Nur Ahmed Osman, the Katikiro, the Prime Minister of Busoga, give us a word, but also invite His Royal Highness to speak to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ED, Your Royal Highness, Cabinet Ministers from Kyabazinga Babusoga, Executive Director UEC, Executive Director UA, my brother, former Governor Jinja Emeritus, Titus Kisambira, members of the press. On behalf of Kyabazinga Babusoga, I want to thank the promoters of UEC and UA of giving us an opportunity to visit this facility today. Wild conservation is a key promoter in economic growth worldwide. There are some countries that earn a lot in terms of growth, in terms of development from wild conservation. We shall be very privileged and honored to have you promoting zoos and wild game reserves in most parts of the country, and Busoga in particular. At this juncture, let me take this singular honor and privilege to invite His Royal Highness to address this important congregation. Thank you, Your Highness.
Enoni Baba TV Obusoga bulaire otasubwa ku Baba TV nga kikutusibwaku.
Our customers mean everything to us, so we set out to say thank you.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Before the show starts.
Nga kikutusibwaku.
Bakasitoma baffe tubenyumirizaamu nnyo kyetuva tugamba nti thank you.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Weekend eno ku Baba TV.
Nze gamaze omuntu omu ku bantu abasinga kuba ab'omukisa mu nsi yonna, kubanga emirimu gyenkola gyenjagala.
Okola ky'olya nti ky'oyagala.
Nkola kyempulira nti kyenjagala, ate nga okwekusakera emirimu gyenkola kati nga acting oba singing oba ebintu ebiri fashion related mbinamu oba ekirabo, kubanga Katonda atuwa ebirabo oba talent ez'enjawulo. So kyenva nze ngamba nti nze omu ku bantu abasinga okubeera ab'omukisa mu nsi yonna, kuba gye bali abantu bangi abalina omukisa ng'ogwange, nga omulimu gwo kwe kwagala.
Weekend eno ku Baba TV. Weekend eno ku Baba TV.
N'okusesa abantu.
Ondabye?
Nkulabye. Anti abasinga mumumanyi nga Zubeda oba Kabiite. Banaye mwana muwala alina kye bayita talenti. Yabadde ayanjula mwana munne wali e Lubaga Biko.
So he's so understanding.
Ibrahim Biko banange yawanye mwana mwala obugambo ebigambo byonna byandiwanya abala yabiwanya omuntu ogu omu banange laavu yabadde wali eri
my sugar, my one and only, my patient one, my sweetest, my bravest, my cutest situation. Just because the vocative mechanism of the system currently.
Bannange omukolo gwabaddemu kye bayita omukisa anti enkuba yatonye naye teyalemeseza ate omukolo kubeera nga gutambula bulungi nga gugenda mu maaso. Bannange omukolo gwasombye buli serebu g'omanyi buli muyimbi buli munnakatemba bonna babadde wali byonna tobisubwa ku Sande eno yennyini saa 10 nange Kalungi Jamira Kulumba
Lumba Biko webale Shamimu webale nnyo Weekend eno ku Baba TV. Weekend eno ku Baba TV.
Lugazi Central Market yatulinga omukyala Aneti Nanyonjo agenda tuyisa mu kiyungu agenda tufumbira ennyama nga goli yegala teekateeka ekyenkya ekyamangu awe speed olyoka ogende ku mulimu obudde bukuyiseeko
ngenda kubafumbira ennyama ey'ekyenkya nga ngiteeka ku matooke ag'eminwe n'obumonde n'omuceere.
Birungo ki bye tukozesa nga tetunagenda mu maaso?
Tukozesa butto etteekamu bbiriŋŋanya, kaloti, obutungulu n'ennyaanya.
Kajja twakitwongeddewo supu oyo bw'atyo.
Kati twongeddewo supu ono bw'anaakendeerako nga nzijjako omuliro nga nkendeereza ddala ka switch kali nga ennyama eyo ejjira ku bbugumu.
Ayamba ki ennyama?
Supu oyo ayamba okuyiisa ennyama eyo nejja bulungi nga tekalubye nga teweesisesise ng'ogirya naye nga nnungi.
Mundekeze nfomerwe emmere yange lwaki nedda?
Enoni Baba TV obusoga bulayire.
Kale kakubira omwana. Bago ogibudde? Gisibye mandula ejo ejagwa. Togisibye. Bago wagisibye.
Planting the Ramuvule, which I have been informed is a very important tree to the Matoga because it holds a lot of significance to the region. The Muvule tree is one of the indigenous trees in Uganda here because it provides very good hardwood timber and it is resistant to termites. But also this tree has medicinal and other importances. For example, its bark can be used in treatment of early madness, and the sap is used in treatment of tumors and infundo and other ailments. Yeah. So today we'll be planting this tree. This tree takes about 60 to 80 years to grow fully to maturity. And in colonial times, when the English settlers came in, the British English settlers came in here, they recognized this tree for the hardwood timber abilities and properties. So they immediately went on a massive stroll to destroy these trees and take them back home for carpentry and other purposes. So over the years, they've destroyed this tree to the level of being threatened and endangered, especially here in our local setting. So several efforts have gone on to try and revive the tree. But because of the many years the tree takes until it reaches maturity to produce that hardwood timber, you find that for over 30 years, efforts have all been in vain. So we are very pleased to have the king of Busoga plant this tree here with us because we'll try our level best to protect it and make sure that it grows. We nurture it very well. So that when you come several times, you have a look at your tree. I'll ask the gentleman to cut it right here.
It's okay.
This is enough. So go ahead with some oil, please.
And this sanitize. So we can now proceed, Baba. Up here we are going to start the tour of the wildlife, wild animals. Now this center has the only wildlife hospital in the country. Like I told you, we receive animals that have been injured or those that are being trafficked from the wildlife authority, and we bring them here. When we bring them here, they are rehabilitated. So we have the hospital that has the theater, quarantine, and ward.
Tugenda okwebaza we tuli kwogera ssaawa eno tuli mu kifo eky'ebyobulambuzi ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center era nga kiseefu Kyabazinga wa Busoga ng'awolekeirwako omumyuka wa Ssaabaminisita okwote ne Minisita ow'ensonga eddendamu Kyabazinga bwa Busoga, Minisita ow'ensonga ed'ebyobulambuzi okwote n'abakungu abatwala ekitongole ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority batuuse wano okutukulambuula saawa nga namba emabega Kyabazinga atuuke wetuva saawa eno n'olukiiko Kyabazinga wa Busoga lwava okwetabamu n'abakungu abatwala ekitongole kino era nga enteekateeka dino nteekateeka dakwaniriza Kyabazinga mu kifo kino. Ebindi ku ebyo ebeire mu lukiiko nebukubwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga okutaawo omukago n'ekitongole kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center n'ekitongole ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority. Uganda Wildlife Authority mu nteekateeka ddayibwa okusinziira ku Dr. James atwala ekitongole kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Center akoba balina iddimu lyakuba nga bataawo ebifo bino ebyobulambuzi mu regions ed'endawulo. Era nga mu ndogeraye akuba nti beeteefuteefu okuba ate nga bataawo ekifo ekifaanana ne kino mu kitundutundu ekya Busoga obuli mu kibuga eky'Idinda, Idinda esobola okuba ekibuga eky'ebyobulambuzi. Wazira nga akuba nti singa babanga baweereibwa eitaka eriweza eka 50 oba ekazi 10. Kitegeeza ki? Era Kyabazinga wa Busoga mu ndogeraye yeikiriza yakuba nti beeteefuteefu okuba ate nga bakolagana n'obwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga okwotere n'ekitongole kino.
Animals from all over the country, and here is where we have our updates. These are some of the animals that we receive. They come from various parts of the country around Uganda, and once they arrive at the National Hospital and quarantine, all of them undergo a mandatory quarantine period, minimum 30 days, but can extend up to 3 months or 90 days. Depending on the status in which they arrive, some come when they are injured. So we treat, and when we find out that they are fit to survive on their own, we then release them back into the wild. Those that cannot make it on their own in the wild, we'll send them here as ambassadors to convey the message of conservation for those that are in the wild. So this is briefly what we have. It is updated after every 2 months. We are going to move on to see what goes on this other side, but we are going to use this route.
So enteekateeka eddoli kubona Kyabazinga Wabusoga bali kumulambuza ebifo eby'endawulo okumulaga ebisolo ebireetebwa wano. Ekyendawulo ekinsanwisa wano nti ebifo bino ebisolo ebireetebwa wano byonna basooka babita mu kalantiini era nga woli kubona enteekateeka edda okulambula weditandise. N'omukolo omukulu ogulese wano Kyabazinga Wabusoga era nga buti okulambula kutandise nga woli kubona iwe ali kutugoberera kitwenda okuba ate nga tukutegeeza nti ekifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi bantu bangi basobola okuba ate nga bakirambula. Mbe ndi kutegeeza abatabaire mu lukiiko olusoose nti obwa Kyabazinga Wabusoga bwikiriza okuba ate nga bukolagana n'ekitongole kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority okusobola okutaawo ekifo eky'ebyobulambuzi mu kibuga eky'Idinda. Okusinziira ku Executive Director wa Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center kuba nti beeteefuteefu okuba ate nga bataawo ekifo ekifaanana kiti mu kibuga eky'Idinda. Akagerwa kiri nti Idinda yalingibwako ng'ekibuga eky'ebyobulambuzi. So
of course, we have oxygen, anesthetic machine. If you have to, work on an animal, you have to make it sleep. So you must have anesthesia offered to the animal so that you are able to put it on the table for the operation. Doctor, you can continue.
Thank you. So this is what we use, part of the machines. These are also used in human hospitals. So the principle is the same. We just basically extrapolate that knowledge and use it on the animal. We are going to move on briefly outside to see what goes on when these animals come. We have high-profile animals like the African elephant calf, which was received, as you're going to see, and then we see what it takes to take care of it. We feed it on SMA formula, it's a human formula. Usually it is fed up to 3 or 4 times a day. And here it is with us. We are going to go there before we return.
Iwali tubona ku Baba TV tukayongera okuba ate nga tulambula okulaga ebintu eby'endawulo. Awo wetuva wova okubona awo we baidandabira ekisolo singa kibanga kizaire bulungi niwe kibati kizaire bulungi ebisolo byonna batuuka obikola operation. Ndowooza buti oli kubona tutandise okuba ate nga tulingirira ebisolo ebiri kuliya iwe atatuukangako mu kifo kino. It is the beauty of us touring. So n'ensonga neyo Kyabazinga Wabusoga awerekerwako abakungu ab'endawulo era nga atandise okuba ate nga alambula ekifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi. Ensonga enkulu gyembe ndi kutegeeza nti Uganda Wildlife Authority bamaze okuba ate nga bayikiriza okulagana n'obwa Kyabazinga Wabusoga okusobola okuba ate nga batandika okuba nga balambula n'enteekateeka edo ediri mu kifo kino. So osobola okuba ate nga otwegaitako ebindi ku bisolo by'oli kubona ni bino Kyabazinga atandise okuba ate nga abirambula okusobola okulingirira kino ekifaananyi oti ne kino tusoboledde tutya okuba ate nga tuba nakyo mu region ya Busoga Idinda n'ekibuga eky'ebyobulambuzi. Kyabazinga asiimye okulambula ku kindi ku kisolo. Kyabazinga asiimye alambule yanga Kyabazinga ali kuliisa ekisolo kino.
Wow. So you have to prepare the milk and feed. Doctor, you can continue?
Yes, so we do this 4 times a day for up to a minimum 5 years for it to survive. So you have an idea of what it takes to take care of such an animal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nyakato, thank you. She's called Nyakato, why? Please tell.
Because the person who rescued her
Was
Nyakato. Nyakato, yes.
Why did you name it Nyakato?
The person who rescued her was called Nyakato. Yes, that's why we named it Nyakato. But she's called Nyakato Pragna. The person who sponsors some of her milk is the daughter is called Pragna.
How old is it?
It is 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay. Kale tukweyanza iwaka ali ku Baba TV It is just a pleasure of touring Uganda Wildlife Conservation Center era nga okulambula okufaanana otini kuno kudda kusobola okuba ate nga kuba across kino kya myaka 2 years myaka 2 era nga bakoba nti bakyeta Nyakato. Tudda kusobola okuba ate nga tutegeera ebintu bingi ino osobola okuba ate nga otugoberera tuli streaming live ku Twitter Twitter Baba TV Uganda. Sobola twagana ku website www.babatv.co.ug. Waliwo ekintu ekyamaani ino kye ndikwenda okusobola okuba ate nga nkulaga mu kifo kino.
They want to own them but don't want the process, so we bring them here, take them through the process of how to legally own them. We train you on how to take care of them, how to feed them, how to treat them, and then you're issued a permit or you're given permission to own them.
And the critical message here, Your Highness, is that we want to inform Ugandans and non-Ugandans that you can actually legally own wildlife as a pet in this country. Because the Uganda Wildlife Act 2019 has provided for this. There is a user right that has been introduced for pets. So you can go through the right process, apply for a permit at Uganda Wildlife Authority, and you'll be able to own. It could be parrots, it could be other wildlife that have been allowed so that you can own it legally. So don't own wildlife illegally. That is a message that we want to give to Ugandans. Just to know that you have a right, according to the law, to actually own wildlife legally as long as you go through the process. And we are here to support you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the reason we do this is people want to own wildlife, but they don't have the information to help them take full care of them. So when you come here, you're trained, you're taught, you're showed which type of food. For example, parrots per se do not eat avocado. So for you, when you're owning them illegally, you may find it very easy to offer them, and then maybe they die. So as it has been said, the national law allows for people to own wildlife through that process.
What is the cost of parrots?
What is the cost of the cost of a parrot?
Of taking care.
Of taking care of a parrot?
Including the cost of the two, of the pair.
Yes.
Including the cost of the pair?
Yes.
Well, this can be, it's not something which is definite, but it is a process, or it has stages, because when you're making payments, you pay for the permit, you pay for the training, then you pay for the information which we give you when we train you. Including the parrot. The cost is factored in there, which we shall, I think, top management can answer.
To answer that more, Your Royal Highness, this is one of the birds which is highly trafficked. They are got from Congo and they want to be trafficked through the country. And Uganda Wildlife Authority has done a lot of work. Mr. Bintola, yeah, doctor? Has done a lot of work in setting up actually a canine unit and enforcement at Entebbe International Airport to capture people who are taking out these parrots. He's the one in charge of wildlife user rights. You can say something about, especially the cost on the market. It can go to $1,500 to about $2,000. But he's in charge of wildlife user rights. Say something about that.
The parrot, as is one of the most trafficked animals, and the demand worldwide or globally is so high, and as such, most of these birds come from Congo, DRC. Uganda has also a population, especially in Sese Island and some national parks, but the biggest number of these birds come from Congo. In terms of pricing, we price according to a citizen and then non-residents. Because parrots are highly endangered and they are in Appendix 1 of CITES, we don't allow export of these birds outside Uganda. So if you are in Uganda, you leave it in Uganda right now. You don't go visit outside. But I wouldn't want to scare you. Ugandan is $50 can be able to own this animal on an annual basis because there is an annual user rights. However, this is a bird that needs a highly specialized care, and that's why there is training which is offered by experts here And of course, as they mentioned, there is a cost which is involved, depending on how fast you will understand all these concepts. Yes, so it's affordable animal, but it is high demand globally. And many of these animals which are captured or rescued, we find that they have been damaged. These are the wings have been broken. Or they come here when they are really in a bad state. So they are brought here first of all, for rehabilitation. And then if they are well recovered, then they can be given to the public.
Thank you very much. We can proceed.
We are now proceeding to move on. Questions are welcome. Thank you.
Kale tukalambula ekifo kino era nga yewaka twegeetako ab'ekitongole ekya Uganda Wildlife Authority balabwire abantu bonna abayinza okwenda okuba n'obuntu buno parrots. Nkanoonya wano eriina lya parrots mu Lusoga aye nga n'ekinoonya ekikasinze okuba ati nga kikukusibwa abantu abakikukusa nga benda okukifulumya eiwanga lino erya Uganda. Okusinza Uganda Wildlife Authority bakoba omuntu ayenda okuba n'ekinoni kino alina okufuna okutendekebwa okukulu eino okusobola okuba ate nga aba n'ekinoni kino. Nti singa omunnayuganda aba ali kwenda okuba ate nga aba nakyo okusasula esente edda okukifuna okote n'okukutendeka ziringa mu $50 era nga bino bangi basobola okuba ate nga banabyo. Iwe ayenda okuba n'ekinoni kino okusinza kuba Uganda Wildlife Authority bakoba olina okuba ate nga ofuna olukusa ti buli muntu nti osobola kuvaayo okuba ate nga oba nabyo. So iwaka twegeta ku baba, we are proud to have you. Kyabazinga wa Busoga ali kulambula ekifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi. Ekifo kino eky'ebyobulambuzi ekya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center asobola okuba ate nga asaza omukago. Era nga mu lukiiko olusoose okubaawo dashikanga 2 emabega ne Kyabazinga wa Busoga okuba ate nga mu lukiiko n'ab'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority basobola okuba ate nga bataawo ekifo ekifaanana oti ne kino mu kibuga eky'Idinda. Kyabazinga akobye nti nga bwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga bo beeteefuteefu okuba ate nga baaniriza emikago egifaanana nti gino kasagi bajjankulankulana era nga kitegeeza ki nti butya enteekateeka edifaanana nti lino dimaze okuba ate nga dikolebwa era nga ye eisentebe oba ED w'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority Sam Mwanda yakuba nti kino singa Kyabazinga amaze okuba ate nga akikoona mu kitegeeza baidda kuba ate nga banoonya wa kifo we balijja okuba ate nga bata. Eitaka eriweza eka 50 oba eitaka eriweza eka zoti 10 neri kwetaagisibwa okusobola okutaawo ekifo eky'ebyobulambuzi mu Busoga. Okusinza ku Uganda Wildlife Authority bo bakoba nti babe bataawo ebifo ebifaanana oti bino mu regions ed'endawulo era nga enteekateeka esooka ya Mbale yo baamala okuba ate nga bakola demarcation y'eitaka we balijja okuba ate nga bata era nga kibuga eky'Idinda n'ekibe kisobola okuba ate nga kiringibwako. Ekitegeeza nti kino singa kinaaba ate nga kiterebwa mu nkola baidda asobola okuba ate nga bakikola. So Kyabazinga wa Busoga mwene ekyalo isaife Kadumbula Gabula Nadyope owokuna mwidukulu wa Bwamiki liga lya nte litalibwa nsete maino ganga inagaluma mu kolansi mpologoma ya bwana tezaanibwaku asoboire okuba ate nga atuuka mu kifo kino n'abakungu ab'endawulo abalekeirwa ku katiukiro namba 2 ewekitiibwa Dr. Nur Osman okwoteire ba minisita okuli minisita ow'ensonga edenda owekitiibwa Joan Mashola mu bwa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga owekitiibwa Helena Namutamba minisita w'ensonga ed'ebyobulambuzi owekitiibwa Andrew Ntange era ng'ono akola protocol yaffe Ssaawa minisita owa Kyabazinga bwa Busoga executive director ow'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Authority executive director ow'ekitongole kya Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center okwotere n'abandi ku bakungu okuva ministry ey'ebyobulambuzi. Ekifo kino ekya Uganda Wildlife Education Conservation Center kinene ino era nga muno mulimu ebisolo mwabaamu n'ebinoni mwabaamu n'ebimuli eby'omu nsiko. Nti ebiseera ebisinga wetwogera ku parks edifaanana nti dino abantu abasinga mulowooza nti tuli kwogera nti era tuli kwogera ku bisolo byonka aye tuba tuli kulingirira ino ku bintu ku bintu eby'omu nsiko. Nenda kuba ku discussion ku ali kulambuza Kyabazinga asobola okuba ate nga otegeera enteekateeka bw'ediri.
Okubona nga bakola ki babigezesaako obulezi buno babenga obulezi bubanga busobola okukola kwirike buba busobola n'okukola ku muntu. So ebisolo ebyo bikukusibwa ino okutolebwa mu nsi eno okutwalibwa kuliya. Ekintu ekyo tikyandibaire kibi aye nga kikolibwa mu mateeka amalungi. Aye bwe tubona omuntu ng'ali kukusa ekisolo ekyo, ebisolo ebyo tubigema twabimutolaku twabireeta wano. Nga basabe baife bwe bakukobye ebisolo ebyo bitwalibwa mu irwaliro bwe bimala okwidandibibwa ekisolo ekyo kisobola osigala wano twakikozesa mu kusomesa abantu oba twakizaayo mu nsiko bwe kiba nga kisobola okubaawo bulungi mu nsiko. Kino ekizinga tukyeta Budongo Chimpanzee Island kuba ku Malike. Oyinza obona nga waliwo amaadhi ate ng'ebisolo tuli crossinga Amalike oba ekisenge bw'otawa amaadhi ekisolo ekyo tikiringa ekiri mu ikomera kirowooza nti kikaali mu nsiko so tikibanga kibonereziibwa ino. Mbaire nsaba omukulu oba olinayo ekibuuzo kyona kyona olwaidde mba okumbuuza nga tulitambula baba. Chimpanzee, they are our closest relatives. Amalike gali 98.7% genetic makeup of a human being. Nti ekisolo ekyo kitusemberera ino okusinga ensolo yona eri ku nsi. Era kyova obona ba researcher babikozesa ino nga babitoola okutoola mu Uganda irigale. Aye singa babanga kikoze bulungi Uganda esobola ofunamu ate n'obulamu bwabo bubanga tebuli endangered. Tujje tubone ebisolo bino webisula. Wano ku zoo tulina Amalike abiri mbe mu mabira tulina mu nkembo donka Busitema tulina baboons enkobe tulina enkobe. Amalike gano gali no mu bitundu bya Uganda ewagwa omusana mu Western Uganda. Ebisolo byaife wobiringirira tufuba ino okubona nga tubiwa ekintu kyona kyona kye byetaaga kyova obona nti biboneka bulungi. Bw'ojja mu nsi d'okuliya Amalike ago gasanga nga gazira ku bwoya ogasanga nga gali stressed. Aye bw'obona Amalike gaife bulirike liriku ebyoya bulungi kitegeeza nti tubirabirira ki bulungi. Eno family Zakayo gye yaleka. Zakayo alinayo omwana mulala yenka. Zakayo yali oti ni kabaka w'amazike gano. Amazike gano gaba n'emitendera gaba oti gaba mu bwakabaka. Wabaawo Eirike erikulembera banaalyo era banaalyo baliwo ekitiibwa. Era ennaku dino gwe tulina mukama waado n'oyo gw'olibonaawo bamweta Aruma. Era oyo mweru oyo ali kwegema kati. Era amwiririraku mu buyinza n'oyo amuli naye ni bamweta Matooke. Twamutuma Matooke kuba bwe yayida wano ng'akaali muto nga tayenda kulya kintu kyona kyona okutoola kwa menvu. Olibona? Era olimubona boosi waali gavumenti ye mwetoloire. Olibona oyo ali einuma oyo awiikwira omunwa naye ndo omutoola ku buyinza. Aye akaali kufuna busobozi n'aba Malike mandi kumwegayitaku. Emabega wale Matooke wagiire einuma n'omukaza asinga maani kizinga ekyo bamweta Ruth. Yayida wano mu kinaana nga na mukaaga. Yayida n'owundi bamweta Amina. Abona abakazi ba Zakayo be yaleka einuma. Ruth oyo alwirewo wano ate amazike ago mu bukulembeze gaago gatuyamba nti bwe tuleeta Eirike erindi ali mu buyinza atuyambako okubona nga lire tuleese banaalyo tibali kuba gona gabulinga. Oyayizaawo bamweta Shaka ni mutabani wa Zakayo mwene gwe yaleka einuma bamweta Shaka. Era olibona gavumenti gaayo gali bulungi wazira mutawaana tubayire tuleeta olibona kabaka ajakola ki ajakulaga kwa maani ge era bamuviira olimubona. Let's go to the middle there. Amazi okuna enyamu kabaka n'oyo bamweta Aruma. Amazi okuna enyamu bulirike eryawo litegeire nti kabaka ati. Era ndowooza Amalike gano gonna galina ekintu ekiri nakyo okutegeera. Kuba olibona ndowooza ategeire nti ni Kyabazinga ali wano ise bantu. Era olibona tali kulingirira muntu yena aya ali kulingirira ilala Kyabazinga waife kubona nti ya wano wayizeewo omuntu w'endawulo ndowooza empewo ddi mutuuseeko yakoba nti bana wano waliwo omuntu omuva. Tuli basanyufu omukulu waife ono bamweta Dani abakulira amalike gano ajja kuwa opportunity of feeding ku malike ago.
You want to throw across? The king has gone.
Wow. You know, when the king is receiving, no one else receives. Yeah. Oyali complaining eno ne yali afuga amadi tegano aye yetu yafuga nga yafuga nga emyaka 2 ekyamulemesa obuyinza yali wa mululu ino ayenda ino okulya ng'ayenda ino naki n'abakazi kyova bona competition bayine beegayita baamu kuba yava muki mu buyinza aye mbanga mwenda bona babe nga bafuna tukola nti onaba ali kasuka zena nakasuka twakasuka omulundi mulala abandi bafuna chance bali omusika wa Zakayo akali muto tukali mu joininga ali wale mu jamu bona bajamu tulaga baba wabamaze ogabula tufune abantu abajo sanitizing
abagenda
sanitize first
and then throw at once
and we are going to throw at once.
Oh, fierce into the other side. Okay.
Are you ready?
We shall count 1 up to 3. So those people are in now.
Okay, tujabala ndala ku 3 mukasuke. Ayo buli muntu yewe space. Okay. Ndala 2 3 kasuka. Okay, bana wano tumaze okutola ku wali walina ekiziyizo tujja kubona kugira ku mangu. Okay, tujja bitwale maiso. Ya iduka lino lyoli bonna twalitaawo okubona nga tuyamba amalike gano Elliot fundraiser. Omuntu agula wano ekintu oba agula emmere ya feeding ensolo aba supportinze ensolo daife. Slovia.
So welcome when you buy one.